Hello and welcome to Adult Music, the podcast with music for the mature mind. This is episode 233. I'm your co-host, Russ.
And I'm your co-host, Mike.
Oh, we've got some good news this week, Mike.
What's that?
Our friends, AJ and Johnny.
That's
from
right.
The Same Difference, Two Jazz Fans, One Jazz Standard podcast put together a new episode.
I was just listening to that today,
Since they got together at the Sun Valley Music Festival this year. And we were sad because after 6 years, they stopped putting out new episodes in July of last year.
Right.
And so they put this one together. I think it's kind of an amalgamation of some old material, but they just wanted to get in touch with their fans. So
we're having this too. Apparently, they're having people download all the old episodes.
Yeah.
And we're getting something like that too. People aren't downloading the new episodes, but they're downloading all the old ones.
Weird.
I don't know why.
I don't know why either.
Yeah.
Anyway, I sent them a message saying we missed them, and they said, give us some time. They're thinking of some new things. So maybe they'll be back.
That'd be cool. We'll have to have them on one day too. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
When they get back, we'll see.
Yeah, we should get together and do something again like we did in the past.
Right.
Well, that's the good news. Unfortunately, we've got a lot of sad news this week with a lot of music passings, Mike.
Yeah.
So let me get over to the piano here for our theme. And we'll start out. We've got one in the classical category, I think.
Yeah, this is a little delayed. I should have done this in the last episode, but it was just too quick a turnaround. Anyway, Roberta Alexander, the American lyric soprano, renowned for her luminous tone and meticulous artistry, passed away on October 14th, 2025, at the age of 76. She was born in Lynchburg, Virginia, into a musical family and studied at the University of Michigan and later in Europe. And she made her early reputation in Mozart roles and especially became a beloved figure at the Dutch National Opera. It's always funny. Opera singers it's always this one hall where everybody loves you. I remember in the U.S. at the Met in New York, it was Beverly Sills when I was young. They just liked her.
Right.
But Roberta Alexander, the Dutch National Opera audience really loved her. In her later years, she transitioned into teaching and mentoring young singers while continuing select concert appearances. And she leaves behind a legacy of elegance and emotional depth in opera, inspiring generations of artists and audiences alike. Rest in peace, Roberta Alexander.
All right, I've got 4 in jazz, so I'll make them a little bit brief, and we'll go by date.
That's a lot.
Probably you've heard about some of these anyway. Starting with electric bassist Anthony Jackson, a New York native who passed away on October 19th at the age of 73. Developing the modern 6-string bass and working as a session musician and live performer, he recorded with too many jazz musicians to even start the list. Just to name a few: Buddy Rich, Mike Stern, Chick Corea, Al Di Meola. His playing is also on a lot of popular music recordings by Patty Austin, Roberta Flack, and Chaka Khan, the OJs, and Billy Paul. Remember Me and Mrs. Jones?
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, rest in peace, Anthony Jackson, a really great bassist. Next, Chris Varga, a vibraphonist from Lincoln, Nebraska, who was active on the Seoul Korean jazz scene for many years, passed away on October 23rd at the too young age of 57. And he released his recording Breathe on Caligram Records earlier this year. I checked that out. That's the label founded by Jeff Bradfield and Chad McCullough. And we had discussed Chad's release earlier this year. So when I saw that name as well, I thought I'd give him a mention. Next, drummer Jack DeJohnette passed away at the age of 83 on October 26th. Born in Chicago, he became a legendary sideman to Charles Lloyd, Freddie Hubbard, Keith Jarrett, Bill Evans, John Abercrombie, Alice Coltrane, Sonny Rollins, the list goes on. And as a leader or co-leader, he made almost 50 recordings, winning 2 Grammy Awards and being nominated for 6 others.
And he's someone I've listened to quite a bit, so I was really sort of surprised to read that one.
And finally, just before the show, we found out about this, so I didn't have much time to put any information together. But bassist and educator Ray Drummond passed away on November 1st at the age of 78. He recorded on hundreds of albums as a sideman with musicians like Kenny Barron, Art Farmer, Tom Harrell, Benny Golson, Freddie Hubbard, just to name a few, as well as leading many of his own recordings in the 80s and 90s. If you have a jazz collection of any size, he's probably on a couple of those recordings,
right,
and you've heard his playing. So rest in peace, Ray Drummond.
Wow, that's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people. You see, we take a week off and
boy,
lots of things happen. Anyway, we've got lots of great new music to discuss this week. In the episode description, as always, you'll find links to Spotify, Apple Music, and Amazon Music for all of the recordings we're going to talk about. And at the top of the description, there's a link to the full episode playlist, all the music in one place on Deezer, CD quality streaming music from France. If you can't see the full description or the recording list and links are hard to follow wherever you're listening to us now, you can always come over and check us out on our host site, Podbean, podbean.com. Everything's easy to follow there. If you enjoy the podcast, please follow or subscribe wherever you like listening to us. Tell a music-loving friend, spread the word, help us grow our audience. If you take a moment to give us a ranking or write a short review, that also helps us get listed in the music category recommendations, and that helps us grow our audience as well. Come and follow us on our Facebook page to get extra info and more new releases throughout the week. You can leave a message or comment there as well. Come and check us out on X. I put the new episodes up there as well. We're Adult Music Pod over there. And if you'd like to contact us directly with any comments or questions, we'd love to hear from you. Our email address is adultmusicpodcast, all one word, @gmail.com. During our discussion, we're going to play music samples, and this is our fair use disclaimer. Music sample clips are for commentary and educational purposes. We recommend that listeners listen to the complete recordings, all of which are available on streaming services in the links provided. We also suggest that if you enjoyed the music, you consider purchasing the CDs or high-quality downloads to support the artists. And we're going to get things going in the classical category with some lute.
I like the lute.
I do too.
There have been a few lute recordings out, and I've been actually holding back on this. This is Dowland and Purcell, Songs of Passion, and it's a recording by Thomas Dunford on the lute, one of the lutenists out there that I like a lot. Desandre, who happens to be his wife, is the soprano. They do these projects together. Jupiter Vocal Ensemble. It's an ensemble that consists of 3 vocalists, Jess Dandy, the contralto, Lawrence Kilsby, tenor, and Alex Rosen, bass, and the Jupiter Instrumental Ensemble for the thick viol sound that we'll be hearing on this album. And this is on the Erato label, and it was released on September 12th. And we've been sitting on this for quite a while. I wanted to do it right away, but it was a double album, not a very long one. It's an hour and 33 minutes. But we work. We live in these double lives, as a podcaster, as people who have to pay bills. So we're sort of like superheroes that way. Our secret identities here on the podcast. You listeners get to hear us at our best.
At our happiest, anyway.
At our happiest, anyway. Or at least our happiest, right. All right. So, the booklet notes by Jonathan Dunford, who I assume is Thomas Dunford's father, and Sylvia Abramowitz, who might be his mother. I'm not sure. I don't want to say because it's not really clear, but anyway, they trace the Dunford's background to Scotland and say that the music on this album feels natural to them. The music was in the air when they grew up and when Thomas grew up, so the program presented here is like a family album. It's meant to be enjoyed as though it's music making at home, so let's listen. And to be honest, with songs like this, I really prefer them when they're done in a more relaxed sort of way that we're going to hear here, or like on the Old Guitarists album that we heard a few weeks ago. So we're going to get a little more of that here. Some very high caliber playing from the musicians as well. So we've really got the best of both worlds here. So it's a 2 CD set. On streaming, it's all just one long list of songs. But CD1, it is a 2-part program. CD1 is dedicated to the music of John Dowland, and CD2 is dedicated to the music of Henry Purcell, the much happier music of Henry Purcell. John Dowland, of course, being mostly sad, but not always. Okay, there's a saying about Dowland, and he's even written a song with this title, Semper Dowland, Semper Dolens, meaning always Dowland, always sad. How would you like to be known about that? Oh, he's the sad guy.
Sad sack, yeah.
There are Latin American singers who's made their kind of careers on singing these really sad songs, and people just love them. So, anyway, John Dowland was among the first of those. The album starts, track 1, CD1. Come again, sweet love doth now invite. Okay, so this is not a sad one, and this features Desandre on soprano and Jupiter Vocal Ensemble. So the approach here is a little more outspoken than the troubadour-like solo voice style that's usually used with this music. It retains the Renaissance-like sound, but Desandre sings out, not quite like an opera singer, but with less modesty than period singers often show. And I have to say, I like her voice a lot, so I'm pretty happy to hear this way. I think the male vocal is Lawrence Kilsby, the tenor of Jupiter Vocal Ensemble. And we also hear a countertenor-like voice, who I'm guessing is Jess Dandy, the contralto. She's kind of in that countertenor timbral range. Bass Alex Rosen then follows, so we hear the whole Jupiter Vocal Ensemble here. Since they don't feature on all of the tracks, I'd like to sample their solo voices here. So this album is mostly Thomas Dunford's project, with Lea Desandre singing a lot, and I'm going to sample the Jupiter Vocal Ensemble first. No worries, we'll hear the others soon enough. Anyway, let's hear our first sample from this album. I really didn't give the two men much time there because I had to squeeze them in. I'll try to get them in a little more later. It seems odd not to sample Lea Desandre right away, since she's the main vocalist on the album, but we'll hear plenty of her on the rest of the tracks. They all sing the last verse together, and this is one of my personal favorite Dowland songs. I love the catchy setting for the line "to see, to hear, to touch, to kiss, to die." And we heard Jess Dandy sing that in that sample. This is probably the most cheerful song Dowland ever wrote. Sample it for yourself. It's pretty great. It's really a winner and a great way to start the album. Track 2, we get to the sad Dowland. Semper Dolens is the name of the tune and the track. This features the Jupiter Instrumental Ensemble. They played this with Thomas Dunford on the lute, and they are a consort of viols, sounding smooth and sad as the track's title would indicate. This composition is beautiful and rather straightforward. Gets some rhythmic variations at around the 3-minute and 20-second mark and after. I'll sample the instrumentals a bit later in the program. Track 3, Go Crystal Tears. This features Lea Desandre soprano and Jupiter Vocal Ensemble. The ensemble starts the vocal here in harmony, the text more or less lined up between the voices, though some consonants pop out in between chords, an appealing effect. The second verse gets a bit more emphasis from the ensemble, and I'm guessing that's Desandre's voice providing the soaring high vocal. Let's hear them vocalize together. All right, now, first of all, how great is that recording? You heard those four voices like clearly delineated in the recording and probably spatially, too, in the hall that they're recording in. It's a great sounding recording.
Yeah, I noticed the sound stage is great on this recording. You can actually put each person in a space so the lines are so easy to hear defined on their own.
Right, and when you achieve that in two speakers, it's just really fantastic. So you can hear the harmony really clearly, those inner voices, which are sometimes hard to pick out. Track 4, The King of Denmark's Galliard. I've mentioned this before. I would have done okay in the Renaissance era, because I do like a Galliard. It was really popular in Italy. I often imagine myself that I would have been an Italian of some sort, even back then. Jupiter Instrumental Ensemble plays this, and Dunford starts this track off solo. Yeah, we're going to sample this because I just like the Galliard. Let's hear it. All right, and some fancy fingerwork in there by Thomas Dunford, too, in accompaniment of the viols. Even when the Jupiter Instrumental Ensemble comes in, the piece maintains its lilt. I especially like the high solo toward the 2-minute mark. This track leads into the next one, track 5, Can She Excuse My Wrongs, featuring Leah Desandre and Jupiter Vocal Ensemble. The vocals burst in with the ensemble playing as though the Galliard was a long introduction. This track has some lively anxiety to its rhythm. It sounds Italian in its manner. The ensemble gives their characterization of the text a bit of humor, which the setting seems to invite. Very lively and theatrical. Track 6, Lacrimae Antiquae, Jupiter Instrumental Ensemble. And we're back to sadness here. Dunford provides harmony on the lute as the viols fluidly and mournfully play the melody. Track 7, A Dream. This track features Thomas Dunford playing solo and beautifully capturing John Dowland's melancholy to such a point it seems a characteristic of the lute itself. It's a beautiful, spare-sounding work. Let's hear it. Now, the lute is capable of a lot of different moods, of course, but I always associate it with this melancholy mood, probably because it's the first time I ever heard the lute. It was playing a tune like this. Next track, track 8, Sorrow Stay, Leah Desandre, soprano. And I finally get to sample Leah Desandre singing solo, so here goes. Yeah, she's got that darker hue down towards the bottom of her range there. Yeah, very appealing. And she's singing in a less vibrato way here, a little more subdued. It sounds really great. And she also gets that drooping tone on the word sorrow at the opening, perfectly characterizing the mood. Dunford and Desandre, who again are husband and wife, sound sympathetic together, and I really love hearing them too, which is really the reason I wanted to do this album in the first place. Here, I love the downward moving musical line of the text, but down, 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 down I fall in the lyrics. Listen for that and what the music does there. And Dowland has a way with these catchy word-painting moments. Track 9, the Earl of Essex Galliard, played by the Jupiter Instrumental Ensemble. It's another Galliard. It brightens the mood with the viols playing in a livelier Renaissance-era rhythm. Dunford on the lute providing continuo and a kind of counterpoint with his quicker lines. If I were doing this podcast by myself, we'd hear all the Galliards, but I will restrain myself since we're doing 6 albums tonight. Track 10, Flow My Tears, a very famous song. This features Leah Desandre, soprano. This gets played a lot in music appreciation courses, as well as, having singers sing it. The mood is similar to the earlier Sorrow Stay and features Desandre and Dunford alone. Dunford gently caresses the tone out of the lute to accompany Desandre's light, though sad approach. I want to sample one of those catchy lines that made Dowland's works so memorable. Here the words being sung are, "And tears and sighs and groans my weary days," with my weary days repeated at the lower end. I really do love this effect. Listen, please. We'll come out of it there. This is a man who knew how to write a vocal hook. Track 11, Frog Galliard. Dunford plays the opening solo, but the Jupiter Instrumental Ensemble accompanies for a second statement of the melody. Variations follow, particularly in the lute's more athletic lines. The piece is immediately appealing, and it's a Galliard. It's got an appealing lilt to its melody, so I'd like to sample Dunford's opening solo part. The gentleness of the performance is really appealing. It's almost like the melody's being caressed out of the instruments. And can I just say, we need this today. Everything is so in your face now. We got to remember these gentler human emotions, and classical music gives us that. Not always, but in pieces like this, it does. This track leads with the next one as though it's an introduction, and track 12, the last track of the Dowland songs, Now, Oh Now, I Needs Must Part. It's kind of interesting to put this as the last track because it's like he goes away and then we get somebody else coming in, which would be Henry Purcell. This features Leah Desandre and the Jupiter Vocal Ensemble and the Jupiter Instrumental Ensemble. The voices suddenly appear with no pause between tracks and maintain the lilt of the previous track. It's beautiful. Just think of what you just heard with voices now. Desandre is clearly heard in the high soprano above the other vocalists. The overall effect is calming. It's a satisfying ending to the first half of the program. And we move on to CD 2, featuring the music of Henry Purcell. Now, Deezer doesn't separate their track lists into 2 CDs, but the 2 parts are clearly marked musically. Purcell's music generally being more upbeat, a contrast to the first half of the program. Track 13, man, they really picked all the hits here. This starts out with If Love's a Sweet Passion, a song that I really like, and which is very popular among Purcell's songs. This features Leah Desandre soprano and also Hugh Montague Rendall baritone. So we got a little duet here. The Jupiter Vocal Ensemble is also there, as well as the Jupiter Instrumental Ensemble. This is played by viols and the lute. It's got the entire ensemble there, plus Rendal on baritone. It's got a livelier rhythm than most of the Dowland. Purcell is a pretty upbeat character for the most part. The introduction is pretty long, Lea Desandre's vocal coming in at 1 minute and 29 seconds. She's in operatic mode here, singing with vibrato, and it works well for the song, but I'm so used to the period style that this comes as a surprise. It's a light voice with quick vibrato. The baritone Hugh Montague Rendal appears only on this track, so I'd like to sample him and a bit of Lea Desandre too. At least I hope this is Rendal, because there's another baritone on the album in the Jupiter Vocal Ensemble. Anyway, let's try it out and get into the Purcell mood here.
And gently look languishing down, and by passionate silence I make my love known. I press her hand gently, look languishing down, and by passionate silence I make my love known.
We're going to have to come out before that final cadence comes up. I did like Hugh Montague Rendal's surprisingly light tone for a baritone. He floats over the melody, and the Jupiter Vocal Ensemble sings in harmony at the end, as we heard there. Track 14, or track 2 on CD 2 if you prefer, Strike the Viol, features Lea Desandre and Jupiter Instrumental Ensemble. I like the more or less staccato, rhythmic opening that the viols and the lute take. And the introduction of the winds there is very welcome at this point, because we've been hearing viols and the lute throughout the entire album, so we have a new sort of timbre in there. The two recorders that we heard there, by the way, are played by Julien Martin and Marin Sablonnière. At 2 minutes and 15 seconds, the viols have a solo section, and the recorders get a look in too. It's a rhythmically lively arrangement. Track 15, O Solitude, My Sweetest Choice, Lea Desandre, singing this one solo. It's a slower song with the pace set by a creeping lute rhythm. Desandre is exceptionally good in these slower songs about solitude and loneliness, putting the words across with a lonely sort of feeling. This track features only Desandre and Dunford. So far we've heard quite a bit of instrumental variety in the first 3 Purcell tracks. I have to limit my samples due to the number of tracks on this album, so I'll leave you to sample this yourself, because the next track is one of my favorite songs in all of classical music, really, and I've got to sample that. It is track 16, An Evening Hymn, Lea Desandre, soprano. This also features only Dunford in accompaniment on the lute and a single viol as far as I can hear. I should mention Desandre has a French father and Italian mother, so her native language is not English, yet she sings with great enunciation and clarity. Maybe it's from being around Dunford all the time. Her light tone serves this song well. I love this song. Let's hear a bit of it. Yeah, those hallelujahs go on for about another minute, and I really wish they would never end. They're so beautiful. Recorders come in for this hallelujah section at the end. It's a beautiful song, something really special, and I suggest you hear it in full if you're not familiar with it. It should be part of your life, really. Track 17, Chacon. This is by the Jupiter Instrumental Ensemble. Strummed lute and dancing viols feature on this track, a lively chaconne, the viols playing more like violins here. It's a cheerful mid-tempo dance with warmth in the orchestration. It effectively clears the spell set by an evening hymn, which is a song that's usually used to end albums. It's a great ending piece. But this sets us up for the rest of the program, so let's cleanse our ears a bit and get ready for the rest with this livelier rhythm. All right, so now we're in dancing mood again. Let's go on to track 18. Oh, Let Me Weep, Forever Weep. It's interesting contrast being set up here. Leah Desandre sings this, and Jupiter Instrumental Ensemble accompany along with Thomas Dunford. Lute and viol set the somber tone. Desandre is in at 23 seconds with a quiet tone. I do like her tone in her mid-range chest voice. She's got an understated way of singing in that range that I find appealing. The song continues in the same morose way until we reach the words, he's gone, at which the rhythm becomes accented and startles us out of the somber spell set by the piece in order to now face reality. It's a moving song, effectively performed here. Track 19, Now the Night is Chased Away, sung by Leah Desandre and Jupiter Vocal Ensemble with Jupiter Instrumental Ensemble in accompaniment with Thomas Dunford. Warm sound produced by the Jupiter Instrumental Ensemble, not least due to the warm bass sound. The piece is rhythmic and lively. Desandre sings first, with the Jupiter Vocal Ensemble providing theatrical-sounding harmonic responses to Desandre's solo lines. Track 20, an overture played by the Jupiter Instrumental Ensemble. Now, from this point on, all of the music comes from Purcell's opera, Dido and Aeneas. The Jupiter Instrumental Ensemble takes the lead here, with Dunford in continuo, providing strong accents to his more sharply struck part. The viols brush out the melody. This works like a typical overture, starting slowly and then taking off at a presto after about a minute. Track 21, Ah, Belinda. This features Leah Desandre singing the role of Dido. Jupiter Instrumental Ensemble is accompanying. The song continues on from the overture as though the overture were an intro. It's another of Purcell's laments in which the singer complains to Belinda, her handmaid. Desandre would make a great Dido. She sings this with deep identification with the text. In fact, I imagine she has sung this role. Let's hear a bit of her entry here. All right, now, we just heard this opera a few weeks ago in its entirety, and poor Dido just gets dumped on right from the beginning of this opera. It's kind of sad, really. But, her heartbreak and sadness are our heartbreak and happiness at the beauty of her singing. On the words, yet would not, Desandre bursts out into a startling fortissimo, grabbing the attention and then leading us back by the hand to the soft dynamic of most of the piece. It's some clever interpretative technique. Track 22, Echo Dance of the Furies. This features the Jupiter Instrumental Ensemble. This rather quick and sprightly piece is over practically as soon as it begins. The Jupiter Instrumental Ensemble give it a fleet tempo and skate the quick figures by. Track 23, Thanks to These Lonesome Vales, featuring Lea Desandre and Jupiter Vocal Ensemble, and Jupiter Instrumental Ensemble. Desandre sings solo, here interpreting a song sung by Belinda, another role she could possibly play and probably has played. She's pretty much takes the same approach as she does to Dido's songs, not bothering to distinguish between the characters. No problem, though. This is a recital, not an operatic performance, and she acquits herself well, predictably, in this piece as well. 24, The Witch's Dance, performed by Jupiter Instrumental Ensemble. The Jupiter Instrumental Ensemble gets one more solo performance on the album. The piece starts as a dance, and then stormy tremolos appear in the strings briefly. A lively dance then begins. The rhythm is varied with each section. And you know what's coming next. The great finale of Dido and Aeneas. First, the intro, track 25, Thy Hand, Belinda, featuring Lea Desandre and Jupiter Instrumental Ensemble. The introduction to the great ending of Dido and Aeneas, and again, Desandre shows what a great Dido she would be or is. The heavy weariness with life communicated here is deeply felt, not least due to Thomas Dunford's sensitive lute playing. And track 26, the song we've all been waiting for, When I Am Laid in Earth, Lea Desandre, soprano, Jupiter Instrumental Ensemble. A viol plays the chaconne theme, and Desandre sings the famous solo with a slow, drawn-out tempo that allows the emotion to register. I really did like this performance. It's a beautifully sad performance. Desandre gets a bit of power behind the performance. She's got a light voice, but I like this type of voice in this song. Let's sample the famous Remember Me section. Okay, so what she's singing there, in case you're not familiar with this aria, is Remember Me, but forget my fate. She gets a quavering vibrato that suggests the unsteadiness of the character's emotions. It's a thoughtful and beautifully sung performance and a touching ending to the album. Or is it? We get a hidden bonus track, although it's not too hidden on streaming. I wonder if this is on the CD, because it's not listed in the track listings for the booklet. This is a song called Take Me Back to You on track 27. Unlisted on the album credits, it was co-written by Thomas Dunford and double bassist Doug Balliet. It sounds like a modern pop song in its arrangement and rather breaks the spell of the final Purcell track. It's lively and leaves us on an upbeat note. It's got folksy elements to it and a positive energy. To me, it sounds out of place on the album, but it is a refreshing song. I guess I should sample it just so you kind of know what's in store for you. Here we go. And it goes on from there.
Some real pop sentiments in there.
Yeah, and that's the way the album ends. I really enjoyed the program put together here. There are a lot of hits on this program. The booklet notes go into detail about how this music feels natural to the Dunford family, and on the evidence here, I'd say that's an accurate statement. The ensemble practically breathes this music out, and Lea Desandre sings with the feeling and enunciation of a native English speaker. Her light mezzo-soprano is well suited to the music. She sings with vibrato, Generally not done in Baroque music these days, but it adds texture to the vocals, and I like it, especially given the lightness of Desandre's tone. Dunford is a highly sensitive lutenist with a light touch. You sometimes forget he's there during ensemble pieces, so much does his playing sound like an element of nature. The Jupiter vocal and instrumental ensembles both acquit themselves well, and I very much enjoyed the separate programs of music by Dowland and Purcell. This is a highly appealing set of performances of the songs and instrumental compositions of these composers.
I enjoyed both the vocals and instrumentation performances on the recording. A lot of the material was familiar to me, but the presentation here was unique. There's a lot of passion in the vocal performances, and the lute and ensemble are more subtle in contrast. If you follow along with the lyrics, there's certainly a lot of mourning and weeping for lost love, especially in the Dowland.
That's what everybody did in the Renaissance.
I really appreciated the program of alternating vocal and instrumental works. It keeps things fresh, and the recording's sonics are stellar, and the spatial quality, as I mentioned, gives a lot of separation for each voice. It's a long recording, so I'd recommend splitting it into at least 2 listening sections. You've got the natural halves. You can get down with Dowland and then a little bit happier with Purcell if you come back later, but thoroughly enjoyable right to the end.
All right, moving on to our classical and romantic era. We're pretty much in the modernist era here, just after the romantic, which kind of brings us into the 20th century. This is an album of Spanish piano quartets. They're performed by the trio Lirico, who are Francisca Piech on violin, Attila Aldemir on viola, and Hila Carney on cello, along with Josu de Solaun on piano. And this is on the MarchVivo label, who I've never heard of before. This is our first time listening to them, and this was released on October 3rd, 2025. I've been sitting on this one too for a little bit, looking for a space for it. It's a live recording made at the Fundación Juan March in Madrid on 23 April 2025, so earlier this year. Both quartets were composed in the year 1902, a key year in Spanish history where a modernist shift was being signaled in the arts. Concert life up to that point still nodded toward bel canto Italianism in Spain, in a time where Wagner's methods were changing everything. New listeners were intellectually curious, like Russ and I, and aesthetically tuned in different ways to previous generations of audiences. And we have 2 composers who are completely new names to me, Bartolomé Pérez Casas and Vicente Zurón. And the booklet note gives some biographical information about them. And basically what it is they studied here and they did this and didn't do anything interesting besides compose, really. So we're just going to have to go by the music, I think, which is interesting enough. Okay, so tracks 1 through 4, Bartolomé Pérez Casas. I didn't say that with my Spanish accent, forgive me. He lived from 1873 to 1956, so well into the 20th century. This is his piano quartet in D minor, and French critics liked this work's restrained ardor. It's a really good word to describe it. Restrained ardor. It's how I live my life, with restrained ardor. Track 1, Allegro Vivace. The beginning is attractive, with a rather agitated, anxious-sounding opening line, in a hurry to get somewhere. The sound quality on this MarchVivo released disc is very impressive in its clarity and dimensionality. I really just loved hearing the sound, but the compositions are pretty great too. Let's hear the opening of this piece. Okay, so you can hear a romantic sentiment to those melodies, but then if you're listening into the harmony, there are some really odd things happening in there. It's a pretty interesting sort of combination of the two eras, like the new sort of harmonic thinking as well as the sort of romantic sentiment of the agitated theme. The piece has a lot of activity among its four instrumentalists. All are busy until the first theme winds down in the romantic-sounding second theme at 1 minute and 30 seconds. All instruments have a lyrical part here. I do like the way the quartet maintain momentum throughout their busy parts. By the fourth minute, as we head toward a cadence for the exposition, the music gets excitable, then suddenly pulls back before any cadence is reached. The music is extended and seems to slip into a new section without any closure to the previous one. A nifty trick on Perez Casas' part. Perhaps it's something he got from Wagner. The middle of the movement sounds like a development, mostly played forte, but we hear the romantic second theme at 6 minutes and 41 seconds again. We hear the highly active first theme again, and it seems that the romantic lyrical theme and the opening agitated theme repeat in reverse order. Another nice little trick. Sort of a mirror image is given of those themes. After the first theme ends, after the 8-minute mark, there's a long coda that leads back to the material we heard in the middle of the movement. And what would be the development? It's agitated and even stormy. Just as the final cadence is about to sound, it's interrupted, and scurrying figures are played at piano dynamic, meaning soft in this case, building up to the final chord, which appears suddenly. Track 2 is the second movement, Ballada, andantino un poco lento. The movement has a tragic, somber feel to its opening, featuring all strings. Yeah, those string lines are just melting into your ear. Yeah, I started that sample a little bit in because I wanted to get the piano a bit. So after what we just heard, a sort of rowing rhythm comes in with quickly rolled chords on each quarter note on the piano. It's momentary, though. Melodically, this is an attractive movement and rather mysterious. The rhythm here is kept by the viola, and the upper strings melodize and the cello drones. The quarter note rowing rhythm keeps coming back as a motif in the piece and drives a lot of the movement. We're hearing it again at 4 minutes and 30 seconds. The reason I'm calling it a rowing rhythm is because it's steady, okay? It's quarter note rolled chords. Earlier themes come back, and the movement ends with a mysterious rowing rhythm. Track 3, this third movement, Molto Adagio. So this is the slow movement of the work, and it has an attractive lyrical melody full of regret. And their melody repeats there. The movement is a fair length at 11 minutes or so. The opening melody hangs around for a bit, then suddenly switches to something calm, but with more agitated parts by the 4-minute mark. The theme builds to a forte, and the part writing is impressive, well performed here and coming up on the recording with great clarity. There are some wonderful moments in the movement when the piano drops out, and we're left with the smooth legato texture of the strings. There's some really fantastic orchestration of the four instruments and their figuration throughout the piece, but this is especially noticeable in the last 2 minutes, where the texture lightens toward the end. Perez Casas was clearly a composer with a wealth of musical ideas, and he does kind of put them all in there. This is a pretty long piece, actually, for a chamber work. Although by this point, Brahms had written some very long piano quartets, so he kind of set this model. Track 4, Scherzo Finale, Vivace. This is the fourth and final movement of the work. It's got a very agitated opening in the strings and piano. This highly caffeinated section is the scherzo section. Now, if you've got the volume turned up or you're listening in headphones, you're hearing a lot of interesting little textures in there just as they sort of blow by. Pizzicato, there's some swirling strings, there's the staccato on the piano. Really interesting combinations. Listen for changes to the themes. Perez Casas comes up with appealing turns of phrase constantly. Here, the trio Lirico are on very fine form, gliding through this quick tempo without pushing it, and characterizing its agitated quality well. At 3 minutes and 53 seconds, there's an attractive change to a new section introduced by the solo cello. This would be to the vivace section. Notice the highly differentiated lines. The higher strings in the piano are given after the cello's solo introduction. Again, interesting orchestration. At the end, there's a forte section that suddenly falls to a piano dynamic, with the strings playing their quick, agitated material at low volume. The piece seems like it will dissolve into an ending, but instead, a quick crescendo brings a forte final chord. There's applause at the end, which surprised me as the audience were so quiet during the performance, and I had forgotten I was listening to a live performance. So this is astonishing work by producer, mixer, and masterer Javier Monteverde. Track 5 through 8 is the other piece on the album, Vicente Zuron's Piano Quartet in D. Zuron lived 1871 to 1915, not a very long life. This work is Germanic in nature, and yes, it is. Track 5 is the first movement, Allegretto. It starts with slithery string chords. Once the piano is in, the main theme bursts out. Not only is this Germanic, it's got a Beethovenian feel to the rhythm. Let's listen. There's a bit of a grandness to the rhythm here. It's a bit slow, to be honest. It could be faster, but I think they want to accent that rhythm, so they've kind of taken it at a bit of a slower tempo. Again, great sound on the recording, though, and the ensemble itself plays with excellent balance. At 1 minute and 48 seconds, we hear the opening material again, and the entire section repeats as in the 18th and 19th century sonata. The fortes are powerful, yet the sound remains transparent, the piano never overpowering the strings, especially when they have individual lines. And this is amazing because this is, remember, a live performance, so this isn't something that's done in the studio. At 3 minutes and 30 seconds, the development section starts with the cellos shyly stating the main theme and the rest of the ensemble coming in to take the fragments into different key areas. By 6 minutes and 30 seconds, we're back to the upbeat first theme. The movement goes through the recapitulation. The ending sounds like it'll evaporate, but then comes roaring back fortissimo and ends with a grand, maybe too grand, flourish. Track 6, the slow movement, Andante. The piano starts with a rising quarter note figure, like walking slowly up the stairs. That's the image it gave me. The strings come in with a somber vibratoless harmony. There's a dramatic nature quality to the themes, as though painting an idyllic natural landscape. interesting harmonic turn into that new section. If you listen in to the piano rhythm, it's played with a roll up to the full chord and so has a drum roll feel to its quarter note chords, adding a bit of texture. At 2 minutes and 12 seconds, there's a second theme quietly played and an appealing piano theme with a repeated note figure in it follows. The section isn't repeated, and once it's done, the music goes into a development-like section, extending the melody into new harmonic spaces, as though finding hidden spaces in a large garden. It's a pretty interesting approach, reminding me a bit of the effect of being in a Japanese garden, where you walk around a corner and come across an unexpected landscape. At 6 minutes and 42 seconds, the previous approach ends and a new exploration begins on the repeated note motif piano line. This sounds more or less like a repeat of the theme when we first heard it. There's no harmonic drifting. There's a big cadence at the 7 minute and 53 second mark. Then the theme continues on into its B section. Tension builds up, and the music releases into a bold statement at 8 minutes and 40 seconds. Probably in the home key, it sounds like an arrival. There are some appealing avoidances of cadence in this section. The music quietens toward the end, and the opening vibratoless atmosphere set by the strings returns as the movement ends quietly. Track 7 is the intermezzo, and the intermezzo acts like a scherzo and has a galloping rhythm, putting it squarely in the 19th century. Let's hear it. And a new lyrical theme follows, led by the violins. The piano is for the most part in a rhythmic roll. A fugato starts at 1 minute and 43 seconds, completely unexpected, I have to admit. It stops 10 seconds later as the rhythm has the music surging toward resolution, which doesn't come. Instead, the second lyrical theme absorbs the rhythmic energy, but that rhythm only builds up again, and the opening is boldly stated at the 3 minute mark. The piece goes to a rather modest ending, and then we arrive at the final fourth movement, track 8, Allegro con brio. The opening starts with an abrupt piano statement, and the ensemble spells out the theme, then the cello starts trying to extend the theme. And all those cadence points are really hit with a hard accent. It's rather a surprising opening gesture. It caught my interest right away. A second quieter theme is heard, and then at 1 minute and 47 seconds the opening section returns, sounding like it's going to repeat, but instead begins fragmenting as in a development section of a sonata. Now this is pretty clever composing because the opening theme itself was fragmented, but that fragmentation seems to be sort of the driving idea behind the movement. The music gradually gets more energetic and aggressive as the fragmented themes sound, squeezing into smaller and smaller fragments until at 4 minutes and 42 seconds, the aggressive opening theme is heard again. The section acts as a recapitulation, except that here, even the softer theme has gained a bit of rhythmic energy and dynamic. At the 6 minute mark, there's a bit of a surprise with the piano taking a sort of unsteady rhythm on a solo theme, which reverts back to the opening rhythm in the solo and a harmonic build-up that sounds like a tornado forming. By just before the 7th minute, the piano is playing a bell-ringing rhythm as the strings state the theme. The music loses energy and dissipates. The strings then come in and build it up, and of course, there's an aggressive build-up to the final grandly stated chord, again, perhaps overstated. Solaun really likes that big ending. The appreciative audience applauds, though, and again, I'm jolted out of listening to the detail of this fine performance to realize again that the performance was recorded live and the audience has been absolutely silent, which is, if you've ever been to a classical concert, is kind of a miracle. The audience must have been spellbound to have been so quiet. All right, so the Perez Casas piece is weighty, but nevertheless an appealing listen given its wealth of melodic material. The harmony remains interesting throughout its rather large movements, and indeed, Perez Casas has a wealth of ideas. The piece sounds modernist and not particularly Spanish in the idiomatic way that Albéniz or Falla do. The piece does have a liveliness to it. I have to say I found the Perez Casas quartet to be more interesting than the Zurone quartet, though Zurone's quartet has much to recommend it too. It's very German sounding on the surface, and its dimensions and rhythms look back to the recently ended 19th century. It's an engaging piece, however, with some interesting harmonic turns in the first and second movements and some sly shadings into new sections. It's got more predictability to its turns than the Perez Casas piece, but I wouldn't exactly call it predictable. I mentioned that the performances are idiomatic and dedicated, with a seat of the pants playing by the trio Lirico and Josu de Solaun. They judge tempos well and make these large-scale works hold together. They can provide energy as well, as heard in the third and fourth movements of the Vicente Zurone Quartet especially. The sound quality of the recording is top drawer, with great dimensionality, especially on the piano, which comes across with rich tone. The inner voices of these works are impressive and easily followable due to the clarity of the recording. So another shout out to producer, mixer, and recording masterer Javier Monteverdi at Cezanne Producciones. I'm thrilled to hear such a clean recording and fantastic set of performances on the MarchVivo label, a label that's new to us. I'm ready for more, and we'll have to look out now for this label's releases.
I found both pieces to be really enjoyable. They're early 20th century works, but they have a strong romantic character to them.
Yeah.
Both works change moods quickly within movements, and they have a really lively sense of rhythm with what I would describe as Spanish energy. They don't particularly sound Spanish outwardly, but there's a tense rhythmic energy in the lines. I'd give a slight preference for the Perez Casas piece.
Yeah, and I thought so too.
Just for the melodies and the cello parts that caught my ear throughout. The performance by Trio Lirico and De Solaun are very enthusiastic, and the recording has a live sound character with room sound, but all the instruments all come through very clearly. There's less of a string blend than you would get in a studio recording, I thought, but the soundstage puts each instrument clearly in a location so you can really follow all the parts with ease. So I enjoyed that and the enthusiasm that came through in the live performance.
Okay, our third classical album is our contemporary composer of the week, and that is Anna Clyne. She was born in London in 1980, and she is now resident in the U.S., and this recording was made in the U.S. The album is called Abstractions, and the works are performed by the Baltimore Symphony Orchestra, conducted by Marin Alsop. The album was released on the Naxos label on September 26th. Clyne combines tradition with postmodern techniques in her compositions, which is said to give her listeners a sense of adventure grounded in the past. It's a pretty good explanation. We do hear a bit of the past in these works. She started with a background in electroacoustic composition, but in her 20s she began transferring these electronic processes into her orchestration. The program moves from older works to newer ones, and all performances were recorded at the Joseph Meyerhoff Symphony Hall in Baltimore, Maryland, in the USA, on various dates, which I'll mention while we talk about the music, because some of them are older recordings. The first work, Within Her Arms, is for string ensemble. It was composed in 2008 to 2009 and recorded on March 3rd and 4th, 2017, so quite a while ago now. The work was composed after Clyne's mother passed away in 2008. It's a fragile elegy for 15 solo strings, 6 violins, 3 violas, 3 cellos, and 3 double basses, and could be described as a textured tone cluster, but don't let that word chase you away. It's actually a really beautiful work. It has become Clyne's most often performed work. It starts quietly with a downward swooping string gesture, around sustained tones, perhaps suggesting weeping, but definitely suggesting sadness. It's a motif that sticks in the ear, and you hear it often as the melodic material expands around it. I'm going to sample this when the music gets a little louder so that we'll hear a lot of the detail around that sweeping motif. By the time of the sample at 55 seconds, you hear less of that early motif, but it's still very present as the melodic material expands and goes into a more discursive pattern, bearing its heart. The music really does feel heartfelt. The orchestration is warm, like comfort being given to the melody. That slight glissando downward itself becomes motivic, heard in context as the piece goes on. By 3 minutes and 20 seconds, lines are being echoed by other string groups, and at 3 minutes and 47 seconds, a lightly serene theme appears in the high string range. This eventually expands to the whole orchestra, chiming in controlled, chaotic fashion. Then the strings sing together at 5 minutes and 20 seconds. The theme being passed canon style to different string groups momentarily returns. At 6 minutes and 30 seconds, there's a pause as a low droning tone continues. The violin eventually comes back and slowly builds up to the opening gesture, as if unable to speak at first. A warmer section follows after the 8-minute mark. There are quiet mumblings by a solo violin, followed by effusive outpourings of emotion by the warm strings after the 9-minute mark. Toward the end, after the 11-minute mark, the music reaches a forte with the strings interweaving different themes. Then suddenly quietens for an ending, as solo strings interweave a final lamenting set of themes. The music just sort of drifts off at the end. If you liked that sample I played, I suggest you hear this work in full. It's really beautiful, and rather sort of cleansing to the emotions if you have any sadness about you. Tracks 2 through 6, Abstractions, this is the title track. For orchestra, it was written in 2016 and recorded on February 24th, 2018 at a live performance. The work is inspired by contrasting contemporary works of art from the Baltimore Museum of Art and the private collection of Reda Becker and Robert Meyerhoff, whom the piece honors. And in fact, the movements themselves contrast with each other. Track 2 is the first movement called Marble Moon, inspired by Sarah Vanderbeek's Marble Moon, which she made in 2015. Vanderbeek's work juxtaposes a rephotographed image of a total eclipse taken when she was a child with a recent photo of light falling on the marble architecture of Baltimore's Mount Vernon neighborhood. Clyne reflects the memories thus evoked with a sonority that mimics the sound of a mighty organ, building everything over a pedal point E that sounds through the entire movement. The movement starts with high harmonics and some intriguing sonorities in general, including chiming percussion and interestingly harmonized winds. It's quiet, but I'm going to sample the beginning. The main melody basically repeats over the atmospheric timbre-shifting background. It sounds like there's some kind of wind machine in the back as well, though it might be an orchestral effect. Very creative use of sonority in this movement. Track 3, the second movement, Auguries, inspired by Julie Meritou's Auguries made in 2010. Meritu's Auguries is a 12-panel color etching that suggests flocks of birds in random flight. It's a total contrast here as the movement begins with excitable strings. The rhythm bounces, and the swooping main melody in their mid-range strings draws attention. The dynamics of this work get to fortissimo, it seems, by just before the 2-minute mark. It has great, powerfully performed and captured percussion. The rhythm is vibrant throughout, right up to the sound of the slapstick that ends the movement. Track 4 is the third movement, Seascape, inspired by Hiroshi Sugimoto's Caribbean Sea, Jamaica from 1980. This is the most impressionistic movement, inspired by Sugimoto's work, which uses the horizon line to separate the image into two contrasting but unified images of light and water. Another complete contrast, this seascape beginning calmly, and another high harmonic from the violin, tying it to the first movement, Marble Moon. The orchestration reminds me a bit of the Venus Bringer of Peace movement from Gustav Holst's The Planets Suite. It's got a similar calm to it, only perhaps more watery here. It's very attractive, with harp arpeggios in the back giving a gentle rippling wavelet feeling to the sea breeze themes in The Winds on Top. The fourth movement, River, inspired by Ellsworth Kelly's River 2 from 2005. River 2 is a pair of clear-coated lithographs mounted on two aluminum panels. Clyne really is all about contrast between movements in this piece. The fourth movement, River, also begins with an energetic rhythm, as did movement 2, Auguries, but the rhythm here has a rushing river quality, and the brass sounds fantastic when it appears. Clyne seems to favor winds overall in this work. They're back in this movement too. There are some Sibelian chords at about the 1 minute and 30-second mark as the strings keep rushing, then a grand build-up to a higher range for the rushing strings. We also get some of the percussion in that sample. The rushing suddenly stops at the end as wind and brass rock calmly between two harmonies. And the final movement, track 6, fifth movement, 3, inspired by Bryce Martin's 3, made in 1987 to 1988. 3 features webs of elegant, subtly colored lines inspired in part by Asian calligraphy. Clyne describes the effect she's seeking in the score, which says, elegant dance slowly becoming more raucous. The fifth movement starts with arpeggiated cello lines. This arpeggiated line pretty much drives the entire work, with similar comings and goings of sonorities throughout the piece, like the ones we heard in the first movement, Marble Moon. Though those sonorities are totally different here. It's the sonic model that's similar. Let's hear a little bit. Track 7, Restless Oceans for Orchestra, composed 2018 and recorded on October 23rd and 24th, 2021, so we're getting a little closer to the present with the recordings. This was composed for the conductor Marin Alsop, who we're hearing on this album, and the Taki Concordia Orchestra for performance at the World Economic Forum annual meeting in Davos, and received its premiere at the opening ceremony in 2019. It's inspired by the poem A Woman Speaks by Audre Lorde, which is included as a preface in the score. The preface is reproduced in the booklet, and the musicians are instructed during the more songful melodic lines to vocalize on a neutral vowel while they play their instruments. There are also foot stomps and grunts during the more Stravinskian rhythms in the more rhythmically powerful sections. The intention was to write a defiant piece that embraces the power of women. The opening percussion can knock you out of your chair if you've got the volume turned up loud enough. Yeah, little shades of the Rite of Spring in there. It sounds like there's a very closely mic'd bass drum. The music suddenly calms after the 30-second mark and has an ebbing feeling to it, with vocalized harmonies in the back, vocalizing along with the strings. The middle section featuring strings and the melodies is almost romantic, but then the percussive rhythms and the huge bass drum thumps return at around the 2-minute mark. There's a diminuendo followed by an upward rising harmony in a crescendo that leads to the percussive, powerful ending. Tracks 8 through 10 are a piece called Color Field for Orchestra, written in 2020. This was recorded on October 23rd and 24th, 2021. The work is inspired by Mark Rothko's series of color field paintings, particularly his 1961 Orange, Red, Yellow. While composing music that evokes colors, Clyne says she explored synesthesia of the kind where sound is correlated to specific colors and vice versa. Track 8 is the first movement, titled Yellow. The piece does a natural fade-in and recalls Bartók's night music style in the middle movement of his second piano concerto. It's modal and remains calm, and it's got an overall appealing sound. I'm going to sample in a little bit so that the volume has come up a little higher. The opening theme hangs around and sounds serene throughout the piece. There are some rumblings deep in the orchestra, suggesting expansion, but we always come back to the opening theme. At 3 minutes and 40 seconds or so, winds introduce an equally calming but new theme, also modal. There are some wind arabesques in the texture. The movement itself, like Rothko's painting, remains static. Track 9 is the second movement, Red. Red provides a dramatic contrast with yellow. The thundering percussion begins the track, and scurrying string figures are heard. The movement sounds ominous and is in a minimalist style like the first movement, with figures coming back as in a popular song. They do change their dynamic level when they're heard, though. Let's hear this once it gets going, at around the 1 minute and 30-second mark. So highly percussive and very active. Suddenly at the 1 minute and 50-second mark, we heard that thud and distant brass are heard. This is set off against returning percussion-driven sections with the same theme. The brass theme, when played alone, has a swaying back and forth melody to it. Eventually, a repeating string melody comes in. Strings start a downward scurrying motion over thundering percussion hits. The track ends suddenly. And then we get to track 10, the final movement, Orange. This is the third movement. Red and yellow combine to create Orange, so Clyne combines musical elements from the first two movements to make up this movement. Orange opens with a percussion hit followed by calm chimes and quiet melodies. Brass play the first theme quietly and with a bit of distance to the sound. A similar quick repeating minimalist pattern starts up by the 2 minute mark, and we hear the theme from the first movement over it. Thundering percussion and upward scurrying strings return in the third movement. Then this evaporates and we're back to the serene material from the first movement. The calm first movement material brings the work and the album to a tranquil end. All of this music is appealing on the surface, and there's enough content in it to keep the listener engaged. Clyne not only provides engaging themes to her works, but is a good orchestrator as well, particularly when it comes to percussion. I really enjoyed the by turns thunderous and gentle chiming sounds she provides in works like Colorfield and Restless Oceans. The first work on the album, Within Her Arms, is immediately appealing and engaging, and it's easy to understand why this work has become Clyne's most performed composition. It touches a common emotion, while Abstractions is a work whose 5 movements provide dramatic contrast with each other. On the evidence heard here, Clyne is a populist, writing in her own personal style to be sure, but eager to communicate it to the listening public, and that she does. She's a contemporary composer worth getting to know. Up to this album, I had only heard her choral works, which are also appealing, but I found these instrumental works to be much more engaging and imaginative, and the music here has moved her up in my estimation. It's an album of well-formed, highly listenable contemporary music.
I enjoyed Clyne's orchestration and use of timbral colors throughout these works. There's a balance of flowing, tone-focused material and then rhythmically driven passages in her works. The opening, Within Her Arms, flows at its own pace, but makes a satisfying arc of composition if you pay attention over the whole duration. The abstractions were where the different instrumental combinations started to catch my ear. The rhythmic string figures often drive the material, and woodwinds and brass are more flowing and swelling in contrast. Percussion is used in exciting ways, and I liked the contrast in the different movements. Her sense of harmony is interesting, with some unexpected combinations and chord sequences but it's never uncomfortable, and it makes sense when you reach the ends of sections. Likewise, with the color fields, the contrasts are appealing, especially on the red movement that takes on a frenzied tribal festival dance character, and those were enjoyable as well. So yeah, an interesting composer, and I'm open to hearing more of her works. Over on the jazz side, all of this week's recordings come from the Origin label and its sister label OA2. Origin consistently puts out some of the most compelling jazz releases. It's certainly one of my favorite labels. We've featured a lot of their recordings, and among the recordings that came out on October 17th, the Origin label had the 3 recordings I was most excited to listen to right away, and they're all by artists that we've previously featured. We're going to start out with a recording called New Outlook. This is on Origin by the Affinity Trio with trumpeter Eric Jacobson. Jacobson majored in music at the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater. He's performed with artists like Phil Woods, Benny Golson, Brian Lynch, Tito Puente Jr., and performs in Milwaukee and Madison, Wisconsin. In Chicago, he performs at the Green Mill, Jazz Showcase, Winters Jazz Club, and Andy's Jazz Club with some of the top Chicago groups, including the Chicago Jazz Orchestra, Chicago Yestet, Baker's Million, and Mark Colby's Quintet. We featured his recordings before on Adult Music, going back to episode 88, Horns of Plenty. His recording Discover, also on Origin, that came out back in October of 2022. In episode 179, Fandango Fantasy, we featured Heading Home, also on Origin. That was from August of 2024. Both of those were with a quintet alongside tenor saxophonist Jeff Bradfield, and Heading Home made it into our favorites of 2024 list. Now, in addition, he's been working with this trio format with a weekly residency at Milwaukee's historic Mason Street Grill, and they recorded the album Hindsight in 2023. And this trio is Eric Jacobson on trumpet, Pamela York on piano, and Clay Schaub on bass. It's produced by all 3 members of the trio, recorded, mixed, and mastered by Vijay Telisnayak at Transient Sound, Chicago, Illinois, recorded on November 19th, 2024, and May 5th, 2025. The liner notes are by Brian Lynch. So no drums here, and that will open things up in interesting ways and give most of the rhythmic duties to Schaub. The recording starts out with a Jacobson original called Onward. There's an 8-measure intro of alternating bass note and chord figures that build up harmonic tension. You're expecting something a little more ominous to happen, but Jacobson's trumpet melody is really chipper, and Schaub's walking bass bounces it along. It's basically an AABA 32-measure construction, but with some different chords in the A sections. Schaub stops walking on the B section, giving it extra space. Let's hear things get started. Jacobson's off soloing from there, and it's a shame to stop now, so let's keep listening to his solo. I really like how he builds up the tension with those rising phrases with hanging endings. York follows with a swinging solo and some nicely chiming chords at the end, and Jacobson is back for some trading with her before another time through the melody. Track 2, On the Sunny Side of the Street, the old Jimmy McHugh tune from the Broadway musical Lou Leslie's International Review, 1930. Everyone knows this tune. Jacobson and Schaub get it started before York enters. I like the carefree tempo and loping bass figures. York's piano solo on this one is tasty with lots of space, and Jacobson is playful with tone and articulation in his solo. Let's check out Schaub's melodic bass solo on this one. Yeah, great one. And back to the melody there with a relaxed ending. Track 3, New Outlook, the title track, an original by Pamela York, a flowing waltz tune with some neat tumbling phrases. The way that Schaub switches up the bass to repeated notes catches your ear. There's an extra measure after the second 8-measure melody section that stretches the feeling a bit, making it 33 measures in total, and then it repeats. Let's check it out. Going around again there. Let's hear some of York's improvised ideas on her own composition on this one. Nice sense of space and skittering and skating lines. Jacobson takes his time building up a solo from shorter phrases into trilly ideas and into the higher register, and Schaub has a short solo with ringing ideas before they take it once more through the melody. Track 4 is Bittersweet, a composition by bassist Sam Jones from the 1975 album Eastern Rebellion. This is a fun little tune. It's a 12-bar blues with an 8-measure bridge, and the bridge works as an intro too. Trumpet and piano work the melody in unison. It's 2 times around the bridge and one more blues section before Schaub is off on a solo. Let's hear it. And let's check out some of Jacobson's solo on this one that has a lot of playful bluesy licks and some harmonic weaving. York has a playful solo on this one too, and does some trading with Jacobson before getting back to the melody. Track 5 is a stitching together of 2 tunes, Oscar Peterson's Hymn to Freedom from 1963 and Thad Jones's A Child is Born from 1970. That's from the Thad Jones Mel Lewis recording Consummation. York opens it solo on the Hymn to Freedom, and it transitions to A Child is Born with Jacobson coming in on the melody. I'll give you one longer sample on this one. Jacobson continues on with a thoughtful solo and connects back to the melody and a gentle ending. Track 6, To Wisdom the Prize, a tune by pianist Larry Willis. It was first recorded on Nat Adderley's On the Move album from 1982, and Willis recorded it on his own release later, and Roy Hargrove recorded it on his 2008 Ear Food album. This is a lovely 24-measure melody with a lot of great harmonic twists. It's got a bossa feel, and Schaub gets things started out with a cool ostinato. York solos first, with interesting varied articulation and a mix of running lines and chiming little figures. And speaking of articulation, Jacobson has some nice soft tonguing effects in an overall lyrical solo on this one, so let's check out his playing here. Schaub gets the last solo while keeping the Latin pulse alive before a final time through the melody and a fade-out over piano trickles. Track 7, Lover, from Rodgers and Hart, introduced in the Paramount movie Love Me Tonight from 1932, and often recorded standard in an AABA form. Here, what makes their arrangement unique is the cool undulating bass and left-hand piano lines they've got in the A section that contrasts with the busy walking of the bass on the B section. Jacobson is muted for this one. York is out of the break with zippy bebopping lines. Jacobson shows off his speedy bop chops on this one too, so let's hear a little bit of his playing. back to the melody from the B section, and it all wraps up in just over 3 minutes for the shortest tune on the recording. Track 8 is an original by Clay Schaub, Shadowcatcher. Schaub's tune is a feature for his bowed bass on the intro. The tone is great. After a pause, he gets a loping ostinato started to set up the moody 32-measure melody from Jacobson. Let's hear his intro and just a taste of the melody. York has a delicate piano solo on this tune. Let's hear some more of Schaub's playing on his plucked solo that really sings out. Jacobson is back for an abbreviated melody section, and it ends peacefully with piano and the bass ostinato. And the recording ends up with Kenny Durham's Una Mas from his 1963 recording of the same name. Herbie Hancock was on the original recording, and York does a fine, funky job setting up the feel on the intro here. The tempo is just right. The staccato phrasing of this melody is really fun to hear with no drums because of the extra space. Let's check it out into some of Jacobson's sassy solo. And for our final sample, let's hear some more of York's funky fingers on this tune. Jacobson is back from there to a fun finish to the tune and the recording. It's obvious that these three musicians have an affinity for each other and the music they make together. The drumless trio format makes the presentation more intimate, and the extra space in the soundscape makes the performance of familiar material unique. There's no lack of rhythmic drive, though, due to Schaub's propulsive bass and intuitive locking in with York's piano backing. The program is enjoyable with a distinctive original from each member, a couple of old standards done in fresh ways, and the rest covers of original compositions by jazz greats Thad Jones, Sam Rivers, and more, taking you through bop, bossa, and ballad moods. Jacobson's trumpet solos cover the full range of expression, balancing tenderness and agility, always with great tone. Schaub's bass solos are melodic while keeping the rhythmic drive going, and York's piano playing is subtle and stylish, sometimes reserved and sometimes fun and funky. I'm sure catching them live at the Mason Street Grill would be an evening well spent.
Yeah, I think so too. I really love this record from the first notes. The Affinity trio cover a lot of styles, starting out with something more old-timey sounding on the opening track Onward. Onward from the origins of jazz, I guess. Eric Jacobson has this great smooth tone on the trumpet. He's really great playing throughout.
Oh, yeah.
He's really on his game here. The piano and bass bring great warmth to the overall sound. Pamela York's piano playing is classy and highly tasteful all the way through. And Clay Schaub gets a thick tone when soloing on the bass, really thumping out his accents. It's really the overall way that these three played as a unit that appealed to me, and I guess it's fitting that the album is credited to the trio and not to the three individuals playing on it. Hearing the classic On the Sunny Side of the Street is played here with great affection was a real treat. It's an album I'll listen to again and again.
Okay, over to the OA2 label for the next recording, Ted Piltzecker's Peace Vibes. This also came out on October 17th. Ted Piltzecker is a graduate of the Eastman and Manhattan Schools of Music, and he continues to teach at the University of Hartford, the Hart School in Connecticut. He's performed with many of the great names in jazz in New York: Jack Wilkins, Rufus Reed, Louis Nash, Donald Vega, Bill Charlap, Chris Potter, just to name some, and he's toured internationally extensively. He's also a pilot and a unicyclist. His debut recording was Destinations in 1985. I think this new recording will be his 8th as a leader. We featured his previous recording back in September of 2023 in episode 130, Lovin' Good Vibes. And that was Vibes on a Breath, also on OA2 Records. And it made our favorite recordings of the year episode. On that recording, Brad Good was on trumpet, but there was also trombone, 2 saxes, bass, clarinet, and even bassoon on one track. On this one, Good is the only horn, but we've got some extra Latin percussion to spice things up. Ted Piltzecker on vibraphone, marimba, and other percussion, Brad Good on trumpet, Gonzalo Teppa on bass, Paul Romain on drums, Vincius Barros on Brazilian percussion, and Hugo Alcazar on Peruvian percussion. Produced by Ted Piltzecker, recorded by Colin Bricker at Mighty Fine Production in Denver, Colorado on May 20th and 21st, 2024, mixed and mastered by Fernando Martinez at Estudio MoMA, Buenos Aires, Argentina. The recording is going to get underway with a Benny Golson tune, Whisper Not, recorded on the Lee Morgan Sextet recording from 1956. Drum brushes and a nice bass chug from Teppa make an 8-measure intro. Piltzecker starts the 32-measure melody, and Good joins in on the second section with a line on top before joining in unison on the B section. Let's hear things get started. like that little extra measure on the B section for a drum fill. And let's keep on listening on this one to hear Piltzecker's vibe solo. Next comes some arranged trumpet and vibe lines, trading with bass improvisations from Teppa before Good gets a trumpet solo with some sassy half-valve work. Romain gets some time for brushwork fills too before they get back to the melody. The original had kind of a hokey staccato ending section after the solos, but I like the new arrangement here and the overall sparseness of the sound. Track 2 is Landau Bear, a Ted Piltzecker original. The landau is an Afro-Peruvian form of music in the musica criolla genre. This has a unique groove and phrasing with extra percussion in the mix. Good has the harmon mute in, and it sounds like Piltzecker is working with wood and metal both here, marimba and vibes. Let's check this out. There's still a lot more new things to come along in the arrangement here. Good has a short solo that is pretty cool before they get back into the arranged ideas, so let's check some of that out too. Track 3 is Toots Thielmann's Bluesette from his 1962 recording The Whistler and His Guitar. I think most people would recognize this melody in its original waltz form, but here it gets transformed magically into a samba with drum fills in the intro, and Good bursts out with the solo starting up high. I'll give you a long sample of this one. Wow, exciting trumpet solo there.
Uh-huh.
Piltzecker has exchanges between marimba and vibes and the Brazilian percussion, especially the cool cuica drum sound. Let's hear the festive ending of this tune. Track 4 is Benny Golson's I Remember Clifford, first recorded by Donald Byrd and Gigi Grice in 1957 on Jazz Lab in memory of the great Clifford Brown. This is a nice arrangement of the tune, with Good taking the intro and coming back for the B section of the melody. Piltzecker gets the repeating section completely solo, rubato with lovely decoration on the vibes. Let's hear it get started. Good and Piltzecker both have fine improvised solos here, and Teppa has a melodic bass solo, but I'll leave you to check them out because we've got 11 tracks to get through on the recording. Track 5, Duke Ellington's In a Sentimental Mood, first recorded by Ellington and his orchestra in 1935. This gets sambified too with a unique rhythmic introduction. You'll recognize the melody when it comes along. Teppa's thumping bass beat is great here. Good has a solo with a lot of half-valve fun, and then Piltzecker takes over. Let's hear a little bit of the middle arrangement with percussion on this one. Track 6, Miles Davis's Narcisse, first recorded by Cannonball Adderley on Portrait of Cannonball in 1958, not with Davis but Blue Mitchell on trumpet, and a favorite of Bill Evans that he recorded many times. They give it a jumpy introduction. Let's hear it get started. Piltzecker has a vibe solo first. Let's check out some of Teppa's funky bass solo on this one. I like the mixed-in backing lines and ending up with the melody lick there. Track 7 is Delilah, and I think the credits are incorrect for this one on the origin page. I don't know about the CD itself. It says by L. Wright, and that would probably be Lawrence Wright, the UK songwriter, also known as Horatio Nichols, who wrote a different tune called Delilah from 1917. There are a lot of tunes with this name. Of course, the Tom Jones tune as well. This is the one that was recorded on Clifford Brown and Max Roach's 1954 album by Victor Young, first sung by Art Lund in 1950. Ringing bass and good tom work from Romain make an atmospheric intro here. They keep the melody soft and mysterious. Let's hear it get started. Good solos first here. There's a unison arranged middle section for trumpet and vibes. Now let's check out Piltzecker's vibe solo on this one. Another arranged section follows, and Teppa gets to start the melody at the end with some fun trills from vibes and trumpet. Track 8 is Dave Brubeck's In Your Own Sweet Way. Brubeck and Miles Davis both recorded it in 1956. This gets a gentle introduction to a hold and then a rhythmic and spirited feel for the melody with Teppa taking the B section. The solos are swinging from Piltzecker and good with neat rhythmic ending sections mixing in marimba. There's a fun original arranged section before the final melody section and a marimba outro. For the sake of time, I'll leave you to check this one out on your own. Track 9 is Horace Silver's Piece from his 1959 Blowin' the Blues Away recording. This tune is really just built around a 10-measure melody, but they make a nice arrangement of it, trading off between Good and Piltzecker. On this one, let's just check out Good's solo and how he can really light things up with his sound, even on a ballad. Great sound. Track 10 is a Piltzecker original 5/4 decision. This gets a lot of atmosphere from the Latin percussion. It's 5/4, but the 2-measure rhythmic pattern has tricky syncopation and a neat bass groove for the kind of jagged melody lines to move over. Good has a solo section with lots of sizzle, and there's a new arranged section of bass and vibes synced up together that Good comes back in over with some horse whinnies and more fun ideas. Let's check out a little bit of that. And the recording ends up with Burton Lane's "Oh Devil Moon," first recorded in 1946 by Charlie Spivak and his orchestra, an old classic that gets a creative arrangement with lots of fun rhythmic change-ups. And let's keep on listening to hear one final solo from Ted Piltzecker. Has a really exciting solo as well, as you can hear him getting started there, and there's a really cool fun drum break later on in the tune. Well, another recording from Ted Piltzecker with a lot to enjoy on various levels. Piltzecker mixes marimba and vibes into the program in just the right ways, with woody marimba and more rhythmic figures. Two original compositions by Piltzecker fill out the program of standards and originals by jazz greats, but the arrangements are all well designed and give even familiar tunes new excitement. Sometimes it's sparse and intimate, and other times rhythmic and exciting with added Latin percussion from Barros and Alcazar, giving Peruvian and Brazilian stylings. Piltzecker's solos can be lush with ringing vibes chords or speedy and exciting. Brad Good's signature trumpet tone shines through everything with exciting solos throughout. Teppa's bass playing catches your ear with great grooves and melodic solo spots, and Romain's drumming is versatile with subtle brushwork, swinging cymbals, and lively Latin rhythms that lock in with the percussion. It's a good time all the way through.
I really love Ted Piltzecker's tone on the vibraphone, and it's on full display here, so of course I really love this album. He even moves to the less sustaining and woody-sounding marimba on some tracks. The tracks on this album have a lot of space due to the percussion and to Piltzecker's occasional atmospheric clouds of tone when he's playing chords, leaving a perfume of vibraphone wafting in the air. The album is appealing for its sound and also for the fantastic tone that Brad Good produces on the trumpet. And we heard that great solo at the beginning, too. He sounds fantastic throughout, very clean and classy with clear, firm tone, taking some chances, too, really exciting. I mentioned that there's quite a bit of percussion on the album, lending an occasional Latin American atmosphere. The overall album is rich in tone and musical ideas, and the arrangements are pretty intriguing, too.
Yeah. Can't wait to hear the next one.
Yeah. Got to wait a whole year.
Yeah, probably.
Maybe. Most likely.
All right, and one more on the OA2 label, trumpeter Anthony Stanco's In the Groove live at the Alluvion. This also came out on October 17th. Anthony Stanco is from Southeast Michigan and was a student of Marcus Belgrave and Rodney Whitaker. He studied at the Manhattan School of Music and returned to Michigan State University to complete his education. He won first place in the International Trumpet Guild's 2013 Jazz Improvisation Competition. As leader of the Crucial Elements Group, he was featured in the U.S. State Department's American Music Abroad program. He's also an assistant professor at Michigan State University. In episode 171, Popular Precedents from July of 2024, we discussed his previous recording, Stanco's Time, that came out last June. On this recording, Randy Napoleon, Xavier Davis, and Joe Farnsworth appear, and they were also on Stanco's Time last year. Rodney Whitaker was on bass on that recording, and we also heard Stanco on Randy Napoleon's recording of Greg Hill's music, The Door is Open, in episode 155, Golden Hours. So the lineup here is Anthony Stanco on trumpet, Randy Napoleon on guitar, Xavier Davis on piano, John Weber on bass, and Joe Farnsworth on drums. The recording is produced by Anthony Stanco, recording engineer Nick Nagurka, house engineer Tiffany Falls, recorded live at the Alluvion in Traverse City, Michigan on January 11th and 12th of 2025, mixed and mastered by Corey DeRucia at Troubadour Recording Studios. All compositions by Anthony Stanco unless otherwise mentioned. And the recording is going to get underway with a tune called TC, that's capital T period SEA. After a band introduction, things get off to a hard-bopping start. Xavier Davis pounds out syncopated chords in sync with the bass and punchy drumming from Farnsworth on the intro, making a mean minor modal mood. The first half of the 32-measure melody fits over that groove and progression, played in unison by Stanco and Napoleon, and the second half takes off swinging over walking bass. Let's hear this recording get going.
Music-loving community, friends, neighbors, please welcome, live at the Alluvion, the Anthony Stanco Quintet. Yeah.
1, 2, Stanco's off on a solo from there, and I know you want to hear more of that, so let's keep on listening. Great solo. Napoleon follows, tone warm and clear with fluid lines that climax in some bluesy double stops. Davis gets a piano solo too with some cool rhythmic ideas in his lines, and his left hand is really hard driving. After another time through the melody, they vamp out for Farnsworth to get some exciting drumming time, and then finish with the second half of the melody. The crowd is enjoying themselves. It's a clear and well-balanced live sound you'll notice right away on the recording. Track 2, a song by pianist Duke Pearson, Say You're Mine, from his 1961 recording Bag's Groove. A minor tune with a loping groove. Farnsworth starts it with a click and keeps decorating with more cool clicks on the intro. The melody is basically an AABA 32-measure shape with a few chord variations and some nice twists. I like the simple, complementary lines Napoleon places under Stanco's trumpet melody. Let's hear as much as we can of it in 1 minute. Napoleon solos first on this one, so let's check out some of his playing. Less is more sometimes, and nice hesitation in the phrasing there. Stanco is stylish in his solo with sassy half-valve work and great unhurried phrasing. Weber gets a bass solo too. His bass tone is big and dark. They pick it up from the B section of the melody and vamp along for some tasty trading between Stanco and Napoleon. Track 3, a Stanco original, Riptide, another minor tune, bluesy with an insistent riff that kicks off the 4-measure intro and keeps coming back over the 40-measure melody. Stanco is muted here, and Farnsworth's fills are tight and exciting along the way. Stanco continues on with a solo full of great melodic ideas and bluesy phrases. Napoleon follows. On this one, let's check out Xavier Davis's solo. Section of arranged lines bookend a short drum solo from Farnsworth before a final time through the melody and a fun ending. Track 4 is Pyramid Point, also a Stanco original. A pretty rubato solo piano intro from Davis gets this ballad started. Bass and drums enter subtly. The waltzing melody has a repeating 20-measure section, the last 4 measures of which Napoleon continues on with the complementary lines he's been doing under Stanco's trumpet melody. I'll jump in about 30 seconds in so we can hear more of the melody. that first section. There's a final 8-measure section of the melody with trumpet and guitar locked in on more rhythmic phrases, and Stanco continues on with the solo. Let's hear some of his playing. Yeah, great tone and articulation too. Davis follows with a piano solo showing off his smooth touch, and Napoleon has a solo as well before they take it through one 20-measure and 8-measure section of the melody to end it. Track 5, In the Groove, the title track here. It has all the fun things you can put into one tune. Plunger mute, which Stanco drives the crowd wild with on the intro, boogaloo, and blues. The melody is an interesting repeating 17-measure structure. Let's hear the intro and One Time Around. Going around again. The solos follow a 12-bar blues progression, and Napoleon is up first with some fun double-stop lines. Stanco isn't done with the plunger yet, so let's hear some more of his playing. Davis has a rollicking piano solo. Weber has a bass solo too. They take it around the melody a couple more times, but the ending comes sooner than you expect. Track 6 is a tune by Randy Napoleon, Hey Cute One, a minor and bluesy waltz. The choppy piano chords from Davis are cute, and Napoleon has a tasty bend between working with and around Stanco on the repeating 16-measure melody line. solos first, so let's hear him play on his own tune a little bit. Things get quiet with just the bass keeping on for the start of Stanco's solo, but they get the crowd clapping. He has some great lines that recall Lee Morgan-like ideas. Weber has a grooving bass solo too, and they take it around the melody again to a coda ending with a little harmonic shift. Track 7 is Tales. This is a tune written by Michigan pianist and composer and also the founder of the Alluvion Club, Jeff Haas, and it's arranged by Anthony Stanco. This is a neat boppy tune with fun chord changes. The melody is 40 measures in an A-A-B-C-A kind of shape with a neat Latin beat switch up on the second half of the C section. Let's check it out. Stanco is charged up for 2 choruses of soloing, then Davis has a round. Rather than just repeat the melody, we get some new horn line ideas and trading with Farnsworth, so let's check out the ending of this one. Track 8 is Sonny Boy, that's S-O-N-N-Y, but it's actually a contrafact of Jimmy McHugh's On the Sunny Side of the Street, which we heard earlier on the Affinity Trio recording. I'm sure you'll recognize the chord progression. It features band vocals on the A section, singing along with Stanco's Harmon-muted trumpet melody, and he takes the B section.
Sunny baby, sunny baby, sunny baby boy. Sunny baby, sunny baby, sunny baby sunny baby, sunny baby, sunny baby, know you are sweet.
Stanco continues on with the solo, followed by Napoleon. Let's check out Davis's solo on this one that really caught my ear, with some cool parallel hand movement to start out and really classy and delicate lines. Very classy. Next, Farnsworth gets a cool solo around the form of the tune, with Weber keeping the bass walk going on the A sections. When they all join in for a final time around the melody, Farnsworth gets the B section too, and there's a cute little coda ending to the tune. And the recording ends up with another Stanco original called Just a Moment. Speaking of Joe Farnsworth, this one's a feature for him, starting it out on drums and trading with the agile trumpet and guitar figures that make up the melody before Davis is off and running on a solo. Let's check it out. Jazz musicians will pick up on that's built around Coltrane's Moment's Notice chords. I'll keep you on your toes there. Stanco follows with a solo, and then Farnsworth really goes to town. For our final sample, let's hear Stanco's solo ending into the drum solo. back to the melody one more time to wrap up the tune and the album. The energy at the Alluvion really comes through on this recording. The program is a great mix of post-bop material featuring Anthony Stanco's originals, one each from Randy Napoleon and Jeff Haas, and a 60s tune from Duke Pearson. With Joe Farnsworth at the drums, things swing hard, but there's a contrast with ballads and boogaloo. Stanco's tone is full and confident, and he blows well-constructed solos that match the mood of the tunes, from bop, sassy half-valve blues, and plunger work to more sensitive moments, all with great technique and flair. Napoleon is right there, either working the melodies in unison or weaving complementary lines, and his guitar solos are always tasteful, as are Davis's piano solos with a variety of expression. Weber's bass work is strong and steady, and he has a few solo spots to shine on. Farnsworth gets the spotlight for some great drum solos along the way. It's first-rate playing all around, but what will bring you back listening again is the great mood and sense of enjoyment that Stanco conveys as the leader of this live recording, and the natural and balanced sound here is excellent too.
Yeah, there's great energy to the recording and to the performances. I really love this. Stanco has a great tone, as I remember from last year. He's easy to listen to, and he inflects well, drawing you into the soulful emotion of the track when he's playing sort of a ballad. Napoleon is tasteful not only in his soloing, but in his thoughtful entries after the previous solo, sometimes taking the handoff with the smoothness of a relay runner, and sometimes offering some sort of tonal contrast. The two are a good pairing. I'd like to hear them together.
Yeah.
I hope they stick together. And of course, Joe Farnsworth swings hard in an old-school way. We heard him. He generates a lot of excitement on the last track, especially Just a Moment. The very appreciative crowd adds to the atmosphere and energy of the performances. I was kind of wondering on Sonny Boy if there was any crowd participation in that, because it sounded like there were some women's voices in there too. Yeah. This is a fun, swinging album all the way through, and the live performance only gives it more of an electric feel.
Well, there you have it. 3 great releases from Origin and OA too.
I want all 3 of them.
Yeah, I want to add all of these to the collection as well.
Yeah.
All right, that's going to wrap things up for episode 233. As always, thanks to Fast Signs of Staten Island for our glowing neon logo. And we've got a lineup ready for you for next week, episode 234. What's on the classical menu, Mike?
Well, let's see. I'm going to back to Andre Campra, who we heard a few weeks ago, an album called Venite Exultemus Motets by Campra and Bernier. And in fact, they both have the motet called Venite Exultemus, so we're going to hear that set in 2 different ways, as well as some other works for, choir and organ as well, just solo organ. Mm-hmm. We haven't had enough of Bohuslav Martinu's music yet. We love those string quartets, and now there's an album of his 2 violin concertos, along with Stravinsky's Divertimento, played by Josef Spacek, and the Prague Radio Symphony Orchestra, conducted by Petr Popelka. So we'll hear that too, get our fill of Martinu's music this year. So some old friends returning, sort of, it's just kind of like how everybody comes back to your house for New Year's after Christmas is done. We're doing that early. And then Marc-Andre Ablon, one of our favorite pianists, has an album called Found Objects, Sound Objects, and it's quite an eclectic program. I'll tell you more about it next week.
On the jazz side, we're going to start out with a recording by Swedish drummer Bengt Stark. It's called Stray Train. It's on the Tongue Tones label, and there's absolutely no information about it online, so hopefully I can find out some details. But I do know that it has Billy Test on piano, and that's what caught my eye, one of our favorite young pianists. It also features Johan Horlin, so looking forward to having listened to that. On Cellar Music, trumpeter David Snyder's recording Introducing caught my ear, and that's got Elena Terakubo, the alto saxophonist, on it as well. So looking forward to having a deeper listen to that. And one more on Taylor Christian Records, pianist Sean Mason and his new recording, A Breath of Fresh Air. Those all came out on October 23rd or 24th, so I'm going back a week. I wanted to listen to all of these more than anything that came out this past Friday. So we'll see what comes out in the meantime for future episodes.
Yeah, I may have to backtrack in future episodes too, because there was a lot of stuff that I liked from October 24th, and we didn't really mind that one yet.
So all of those recordings will be up on our Deezer playlist a few hours after this episode is published, and we'll have a link to it on our Facebook page as well if you want to get listening along with us during the week. Any final words for this one, Mike?
Well, we had last week off, and I really took my time listening to these 6 albums. It's
nice to
kind
do
of a
that.
leisurely listen. Yeah, it is. Now I'm going to have to get back to that aggressive listening schedule. Ready to start next week or tomorrow, maybe. And actually, it all looks like good music. I want to hear all of it, but
have to do one a day for sure.
You got to do one a day. Yeah, that's the way it goes. Not a bad way to live, though.
Yeah.
Something else I want to mention to the listeners, and we've been listening to 3 classical and 3 jazz albums pretty much every week for 5 years now, give or take a few weeks. And one thing I noticed is that from all those like classical recordings, really the jazz ones too, but just focusing in so much, my attention span has gotten longer.
Yeah.
So I'm a person that is not of my time, where everybody else's attention span is getting shorter because of the internet.
Yeah. TikTok.
I'm listening to complicated classical music movements, and it's over time, it's really just, I don't know, I'm kind of picking a lot more up. It's pretty amazing.
It's been something that, other than work, we have to kind of organize our life around. And in a way, I mean, sometimes it seems like a task to have to listen intently and then put things into words. But yeah, I've definitely watched less television.
Oh, that's for sure. I don't watch many movies anymore. I do still read a lot of books, but
and I've probably done less other things that I shouldn't be doing anyway instead of listening.
True.
So it's a good way to focus your attention, and definitely worth spending the time. So we'll be back again next week with episode 234. Until then, keep listening, and we'll see you again next time.